Welcome to English with Stuart, and today we're going to have a look at two very confusing verbs in English, and these are the verbs do and make. Now, before I get started, if you like this video, please click like, subscribe and share. This will also allow me to be able to continue making videos for you to enjoy free of charge to help you improve your English. Right, so back to the topic, do and make. Now, for speakers of Northern European languages, do and make are quite simple because in languages such as German, Dutch and Scandinavian languages, there is a separate verb for do and make. But as I teach Spanish speakers how to speak English and how to improve their English, in Romance-based languages of Southern Europe, such as Spanish, Portuguese, French and Italian, there is only one verb for both of these verbs. Of course, in Spanish, that verb is hacer. So with a lot of my students, they have enormous problems trying to differentiate between do and make. So today I'm going to help you understand the concept of do and make much better than you did before. Now, when do we use do and when do we use make? Well, before I explain the rule, and in reality there is no rule, it's more of a philosophy. Because when you look on the internet, for example, for a rule between do and make, you will find it very difficult to find an exact rule because, well, there isn't one. But through this video, I'm going to help you understand the philosophy behind the difference. But before we start, I want to do a little exercise with you. So go and get yourself a pen and paper, and I'm going to give you some words, and I want you to write down whether you think it's do or make. So the first one, homework. Homework. Is homework do or make? What about housework? Housework. Is that do or is that make? Then there's money. Do we do money or do we make money? Business. Do. Make. The dishes. The dishes, is that do or is that make? Or what about a dish? Is that do or make? A job? A phone call? Do we make friends or do we do friends? An appointment? How about breakfast? Do we make breakfast or do we do breakfast? And then, of course, there's research, investigation, exercise, harm, an excuse, a decision. And finally, do we make or do an English class? Now, the last one, an English class, is a really, really good example because right now, we are doing, both you and I, we are doing an English class. But I made this English class to be able to present to you the information about do and make. So there we have two examples. Do the English class, but I made the English class. So what exactly is the difference? Well, do is a very general term. So when you see sentences, particularly when you're translating from perhaps Spanish, using the verb hacer, and you're thinking, well, do I use do or make? Is there a context of an action? Is there a specific action? If there isn't, use do. Do is specific, is general, is non-specific. Do is also about following instructions, following procedures, following processes. Whereas make is more creative. You know, a lot of my students will often say to me, Stuart, I know make. Make is about creating something with my hands. Yes and no, not exactly. Make can also be inventing, creating in the mind. Let's have a look at these examples. So homework, do or make? Well, homework is do. And why? What exactly is the action when you do homework? In Spanish, los deberes. Homework could be reading, writing, listening, drawing. There could be a lot of potential actions here. So it's not specific. Of course, it's also an instruction. So as I said before, doing an instruction is do. Following an instruction is do. Housework, las tareas de la casa. Housework. What action is it? Well, it could be cleaning. It could be washing. It could be sweeping. There are a lot of potential actions that you could be doing with housework. For that reason, it's very general, it's do. What about money? Well, we create money for our bank account, so we make money. What about business? Do business, make business. Well, make business to a native English person like myself sounds like starting a new business. But that's start a business. We don't use the verb make for that. Do business is without creation. You have two people sitting talking about the various different products that they can buy, and they discuss and negotiate a price. They then shake hands, they do business. Only then does one of the individuals go back to the company to create, make and manufacture the products. To make, create or manufacture the products. The dishes. When we say do the dishes, we mean wash the dishes or clean the dishes. No creation, you're following a process. But we make a dish because we are creating a meal. We are taking ingredients, we are creating a plate of food or a dish with food. What about a job? Well, that depends. What is the specific action? Well, you do a job because the actions vary. For example, my job is to teach. Your job could be something completely different. And therefore, in this case, it's a very general term. So it's do a job. A phone call. Well, we make a phone call. In fact, you probably know this already, not through anything other than just being familiar with how natives say it. But why is it make a phone call and not do a phone call? Well, nowadays, we probably do a phone call. But in the original days of the telephone, 100 years ago or so, you used to have people, usually ladies, sitting in an exchange. And when you picked up the telephone, you spoke to an operator who would then literally take cables, wires, and connect them to make a connection. So they had to make something. They made a connection. And that's why we have the term make a phone call. We still use it today. It'll never change. It's been over 100 years in existence. The verb make with a phone call. What about friends? Well, again, that's a very, very similar philosophy. You make a connection with someone, you make friends. An appointment. Hello, doctor, can I make an appointment to see you, please? Now, interestingly, you can use both verbs here. Make, to create the appointment for your diary. But indeed, if you are sitting in the appointment with the doctor and his telephone rings, he answers the phone and says, "Sorry, I can't speak right now. I am doing an appointment with a patient." He's following the process. What action is he specifically doing? Well, he's talking to you, but he could be inspecting you. He could be doing lots of different actions in that appointment. So he's using the do general verb. Whereas when you made the appointment, you created it. It's much more specific. Breakfast. To make breakfast, to create a meal with ingredients, a bit like making a dish of food, you make breakfast. Is it possible to do breakfast? Nowadays, I often hear younger people using the term, let's do breakfast. It means let's have breakfast. Let's arrange a time to meet and have breakfast together. Do breakfast. But in reality, the traditional verb here is make, because you are creating a meal. What about research? Well, we do research. There is no specific action here, and you're also not creating a product. You are looking at books, listening to podcasts. You are collecting information in various different types of actions. You are doing research. But an investigation is more. With an investigation, you have to bring finance, money. You have to bring in people. You have to start something, create something with the purpose of finding a result. To make an investigation, particularly used for investigating crimes with the police. What about exercise? Well, what is exercise? Running? Swimming? Walking? Going to the gym? There is not one specific particular action here. So do, the general verb. And the same happens here with harm. Although you make the body painful, you create pain, you are indeed doing harm. There are lots of different possible ways to create harm. In Spanish, that's hacer daño. Going back to the exercise point, a good phrase to remember, to help you remember do and make, is I do exercise to make my body healthy. So I'm doing one of many different possible activities to create health for my body. An excuse? Well, you invent an excuse. You create an excuse. It's something very specific. And of course, the same applies with decision. You make a decision. Okay, so this is not a rule because there are some exceptions. But you will find that if you adopt this general philosophy that I have shared with you today, you will find that 95% of the time, you will be correct with do and make. So I hope that really helps you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.